I'm Robert Ranieri. In today's video, I'll be going through the POS or point of sale Power BI dashboard. It's a dashboard that breaks down the market share of certain manufacturers and brands for brick and mortar or in-store purchases when somebody physically goes and buys something off the shelf at a given store. To begin, please go to my website, robaranieri.com/POS, or if you're already there, click on the POS tab. A Power BI report will show up. I recommend going full screen to begin. The default tab shows the tree decomposition report. Before getting into metric interpretation, I'd like to talk about the filters first on the report. Users have the ability to select the week selection and go back in time. They have the ability to select the time frame selection, last 4 weeks, last 13, 26, 52. If they choose last X weeks, they can input their own number of weeks that they want to look back on, and it will adapt. The comparison selection is versus last year versus prior period. Prior period will be the 4 weeks before these 4 weeks, and last year will be the 4 weeks compared to this time last year. Users have the option to select between dollar sales, unit sales, which is quantity, and volume sales, which is the equivalized volume of each and every individual item. So if you sell in a pack of 3 or something by ounces, it will equivalize that volume. Then you have the geography selection. There are made-up geographies of dummy data for grocer, Mike's Grocery, pharmacy, and Texas Grocer. To zoom in a bit more here, the category options we have are beverages, food, pets, and supplements. The manufacturers are completely masked, but they rank in terms of manufacturers 1 through X. The brands are also completely masked, ranging from 1 through X. The segments you can choose once you're in food is breakfast, dinner, and lunch. If I choose breakfast, for example, the data will adapt and show me the tree decomp for breakfast foods at pharmacy. Let's deselect breakfast and choose all of the food category at pharmacy using dollar sales, the last year, and the latest 4 weeks, with the latest week ending Saturday as our selection. The top of the tree shows the total dollar sales in the market in the last 4 weeks, $20.5 million. It gets broken down into 2 separate branches, the baseline dollar sales and the incremental dollar sales. Let's stick with the left side of the tree to begin. Baseline dollar sales can be thought of as your normal amount of sales generated at a baseline price, or just the normal price when there's no discount occurring. We can see that the baseline absolute change from one year to the next is up $1.4 million. That's contributing a positive $1.4 million to the total absolute change. Whereas the incremental dollar sales, the sales that you get from doing a discount of some sort or an advertisement, is down $600,000. The combination of the two make up the absolute change in total dollar sales. Under baseline dollar sales, it's broken down into 2 components, distribution and base velocity. You could think of distribution as the total number of stores and products within this category that are sold nationwide. At this store, pharmacy, within the food section, we've either increased the number of stores nationwide being sold, or we've increased the number of food items that are being sold nationwide, leading to an increase in sales. Base velocity, on the other hand, is the speed at which you're selling those products. So if normally within the food industry a burger is sold once every week, and instead now it's sold twice every week, that velocity is increasing and you're generating more sales per time. On the right side of the tree are the incremental dollar sales. Think of this as the additional change in dollars due to outside factors other than baseline. Additional discounts, additional advertising spend, additional tactics that can be used at pharmacy within the food industry to increase sales. Immediately you'll notice the incremental price is $8.33, whereas the baseline price is $9.48. Baseline think of just as regular off-the-shelf price with no sale. Incremental price is some kind of discount of some sort happening in the market. When you see a buy one get one free, when you see a 50% off. The incremental dollar sales are broken down into quality merch and total price reduction dollar sales. Quality merch is further broken down into display only, and feature and display dollar sales. All different types of tactics that one can perform at a brick and mortar store to get their products from the shelf into some kind of featured or display location for higher sales. You'll notice that incremental percent of total, the total number of sales that the incremental dollars make up, is only 8.5%, whereas the majority of the sales come from the baseline total of 91.4%. This can vary by retailer or business. The business question of why have dollar sales increased at pharmacy within the food category is shown here. The baseline dollar sales is driving the change. If you scroll down to the waterfall chart, you can see this visually, where we were at 19.7 million 1 year ago, and that rose to $20 million in the current state due to distribution and velocity gains despite losses in the feature-only section. The entire tree decomposition report is dynamic. If you select manufacturer, brand, segment, or even product, it will adapt to show the sales for that thing. For example, if I chose breakfast and selected a product at random, This would be some kind of branded blueberry muffin, for example. We can see how that particular blueberry muffin has changed over time, and it's lost 30% of its sales. Why? It's due to distribution losses, so it's not in as many stores, and it's due to feature-only losses. So the amount of specific blueberry muffins on feature has decreased from year over year at these stores. Moving on to the next page of the report, we're looking at panel data. I'd recommend putting the fit to page filter down below so that you can see everything. For panel data, we're no longer looking at point of sale and market share data, we're looking at shopper behavior. In this example, we're selected on one specific group of items within the coffee industry for a given manufacturer. Each branch of this tree shows a metric relevant to consumer behavior. This first metric, the household penetration rate, shows the number of households in the United States that purchased this set of items. Last year it was 0.4% of all households, this year it's 0.3%. On the other side of the tree, we have the dollar sales per buyer, or how much money is spent on a per buyer basis. Last year it was $10.12, this year it's $11.85. So each buyer, even though there are less households in America that are buying, are spending more per trip. Consumers are taking less trips to the store, but spending more on a per trip basis because the prices are higher and the number of quantity that they buy is also higher. The waterfall chart in the bottom left describes everything at a high level. There are overall less buyers in the market, and they're purchasing less frequently. However, when they do buy items, they're buying a higher price, and they are also buying more units per trip, leading to an overall net positive increase in sales of $151,000. Moving on to the next tab, we're going to go to the POS by timeframe. The default view shows manufacturers at a grocer for the latest 4 and 13 weeks of sales and their changes. At the top here, we have the category and attribute filters, where we can select specific categories, such as beverages, and then within the segment of beverages, we can select coffee, and it shows us all the manufacturers that produce coffee at grocer and their sales in the latest 4 and 13 weeks. The default view breaks everything down by sales. However, users have the ability to select any KPI they'd like. For example, if I wanted to do dollar share, I could add it here, and the data will populate with the share values as well. Users can select unit sales, volume sales, and other KPIs. Using the metric selection to filter, you can even hone it down further and say, I just want to look at sales, the sales change from one year to the next, the share, and the share change. Users have the ability to select whatever kind of report they'd like using the metrics here. In a similar way, users can select the hierarchy option. So instead of manufacturer, we could break it down by brand, and it will automatically convert the table into the brand. You could do it by segment as well, although we're just on coffee here, so it won't break down into much. The unique thing about this is it can break down in a hierarchical fashion the order in which you select. So for example, if I'm on segment coffee, and then I choose brand, and then I scroll down to product, I'm now going to get a matrix that I can break down. So coffee breaks down into brands, and the brands break down into products. And so I can get a sense of every single item, every single brand, and the segment that I'm looking at, what the sales are, the change, and the share at a lower level of granularity, so that I can make insights and take action on the data and figure out the why of something happening. For example, why is the brand number 5 going down in terms of share basis points? It's because its main items obviously are going down in terms of share. Using a combination of the slicers on the left and the filters on the top, users have a nearly endless amount of reporting styles and breakdowns that they can choose from. Moving on to the next tab, we go to custom reporting. In this tab, we have the exact same information we had in the previous tab, except it's formatted in such a way that's more appealing to the business and aesthetically pleasing. In this example, we have breakfast, dinner, and lunch, the 3 segments within food that are getting broken down by each and every individual manufacturer. Users can slice and dice the data with the metrics and the hierarchy options available to them. However, on the top, the subcategory is what's honed in and stagnant here. So for example, if I clicked on beverages, it's always going to give me the subcategories of beverages. Same for pets, I'm only going to get the subcategories for pets, and supplements just has vitamins underneath it, so I'm just going to get vitamins. Moving on to the final tab, it shows the item ranks. This tab ranks products in terms of sales at a geography and by time frame selection. In this example, we're comparing products across 2 different retailers, Grocer and Mike's Grocery, across the time frames of the latest 4, 13, and 26 weeks. Highlighted in green are dummy data denoting that these products are owned by the company we're interested in. Taking a look at product 61, for example, we see that its rank is 3rd, 4th, and 7th over the latest 4, 13, and 26 weeks at Grocer. This means it's gaining sales momentum. It used to be, or was 7th when we look at a larger time frame, but in the more recent weeks, it's ranked 3rd in terms of sales. There's a similar story at Mike's Grocery, where it's 60th in terms of the last 26 weeks, but ranked number 1 at that particular retailer in terms of the last 4 weeks. The data even shows white space opportunities in the market. For example, product 311, it's the 8th highest ranked item at Grocer in the last 4 weeks in terms of sales, but not even sold at Mike's Grocery. That's a clear distribution opportunity where we can make the pitch to Mike's Grocery to sell this product at their retailer, knowing it has viable sales against it at another retailer. Overall, this dashboard gives the ability for users to break down the market in a variety of different ways, by different segments, by different categories, brands, and manufacturers to glean any insight and change. It also explains the why of something is changing in terms of dollar sales and how to get granular and identify opportunities at an item level across different retailers.